So we're gonna go ahead and hop right into it. How was Howard University when you were here?
That's a broad question. How was Howard University? Trying to think. First of all, I came here in 1992. It was probably the most dynamic place I had ever been in my life. Seriously, I can't remember a day that we didn't have fun. It was. I don't even know how to describe it, man. It was just a beautiful time. It was the type of thing where we would sit down to dinner, and one time me and Cephas was sitting there and we was like, yo, let's have a party, because I had my turntables in my room. So Cephas drew a flyer sitting at dinner, and we walked to the quad and we put it up in the quad, and that night Drew was packed with girls, right? Packed. So it was like, sort of like a way of everybody meeting everybody. And I thought it was real dope because we actually signed in every person that came in. So it was like back then you could sign in. I think you could have what, 3 people.
Oh,
so it was like but it was like, yo, a girl would come with a crew of like 7. So it's like, yo, I already signed in everybody. You was just knocking on dudes' doors like, yo, come downstairs and sign this girl in.
It's like that.
Exactly. So then the dude is not gonna say no, because now he's meeting 3 people that have to check him before they leave. But it was a great party. We had a party in the basement. That's Drew Hall. Like, we used to do stuff like that.
What organizations were you involved in at Howard University?
I think the primary one was Cultural Initiative. I wish they would bring that back, Tim. The Cultural Initiative was a group that threw the hip hop conference. And that was the very first thing that I got involved with on campus. Back then, you know, like, it was little stuff like, Def Jam would come down and they'd have like these little meetings where they would try to get us to rate records and things of that nature. But the very first thing that I was like, I want to be a part of that was Cultural Initiative. And that's because they threw the hip hop conference and I didn't want to pay for it. So I was like, yo, I'm going to go help them through the badges. Like, I was the badge stuffer or whatever you call it. You know what I'm saying? Putting the badges together. And that was just meeting a bunch of, again, people that ended up being friends of mine for the rest of my life. And it was also like my first time dealing with industry people, so it was like, okay, Lost Boys is flying into town, you need to go pick them up. Now it was made by students, and it was just really run well, and this was at a time when, you know, hip hop was like, I don't want to say a budding thing, but it was still like not as corporate as it is now. And to have something like that here, I mean, Tupac was here. You know, like at the time it was the top artist, and this is students and ex-students, you know, putting this thing together, and it was super major.
What are the studio sessions like with Jay-Z in there? Around Black Album time? Actually, Blueprint. Let's do that.
Blueprint wasn't a whole bunch of sessions. As monumental as that album was, we did that, the majority of that record in a weekend.
Wow.
From like a Friday to a Monday. We did a majority, at least like, what happened was Kanye came in. You got to paint the picture at this time, right? So Justice sort of making more headway than Kanye at the time, right? Just Blaze was the guy. So Ye was sort of, you know, in his own way, like, ooh, why are they not messing with my beats? Why are they not picking my beats? You know, and he went into this thing where he was just like, he was living in Newark at the time, in Jersey, actually. And he just went into it like a zone and started just making a whole bunch of stuff. And he came in the studio one day. We had just got done with a Beans album. He came in the studio with this CD that had 9 tracks on it. And we used 7 of those tracks for Jay. And I think the other 2 was like the Alicia Keys record that he did with Moses in the video. And some Ludacris record was the other record. But like all 9 of those tracks ended up getting sold to artists. That's how much of a grind Kanye was on. And we just started. You know, Jay heard the beats and was just inspired, and he started writing, and he did a song real quick. It was like, oh, that's fresh, and left out 8, came back and did another song. I'm like, oh, this is crazy. Then now, you know, Justice in the beat room, he sticks his head in, and he's like, oh, this is where we're going with the soul samples? Okay, cool, I'll be back. And he walks, you know, into his room and start just going off, and you get You Don't Know, and you get all these other records. And look, turn around. I didn't leave for the whole weekend, but it was like he would do a record, go play PlayStation or Xbox or whatever it was at the time, and come back in and do another record.
You became his official DJ, his tour DJ in 2010,
yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So what is tour life like? You like it? I know it's hectic.
It's hectic, but it's not what you think. It's not like Big Pimpin' video. It's not like it's none of that. Like it's very you're dealing with grown adults now. Maybe during the early stages it was like that. You know what I'm saying? But the backstage when it was like it's not this way anymore. But it was 10 of us, right? It was a whole band. Jay scaled it down. And this last tour he took Timbaland out. But when it was all 10 of us and it was like the Rock Boys, it was one of the best times of my life. And it's almost like a dentist's office backstage. You would think it's some wild hip-hop rap stuff going on, but it's not.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's very controlled, and he's a professional. There's none of that going on backstage. Probably me and Bleak is the only people back there doing stuff that we're not really supposed to be doing. But it's fun, you know, it's fun to travel the world and see the reaction of hip-hop and to get a world view. If there was one thing I could give to everybody, it would be to travel the world and to get a world view and to see how people live in different environments and how they view Americans and then how they view American blacks.
Yeah.
So it's a great thing, and it's also the thing that I used to get from DJing at Howard that other DJs didn't necessarily have. Yeah. So, meaning this, if you was a DJ at Howard, right, DJs can DJ in a specific area and get real used to playing for just that area. Yeah. You know what I mean? So, when I was at Howard, it's all 50 states, it's the islands, it's everybody. So, and the people that I'm playing for are more or less my friends. You know what I mean? So, you learn so many of that. Absolutely not a 360 deal. Yeah. But, I mean, the key to success nowadays is become independent, push yourself to a certain level, and then have the corporate come in and try to help you. You know, when we were doing what we did, the whole point was to sign a deal. I heard somebody say this the other day, and it's beautiful. They have 360 deals, but they don't have 360 capability. You think about that. 360 deal means if you get into a movie, I'm taking some of that money. Yeah. All of your touring and merchandising, which is the bread and butter at this point, I'm taking that. But you want to take my movie money, but you didn't get me the movie. Yeah. Where's it? And this is Universal. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, that's merchandise too, right? Yeah, where's the department that takes the artist and say, okay, we're gonna match you with this movie? Or where's the department that says, I'm gonna take the artist and I'm gonna put you on this tour? If you set up my tour, then yeah, you deserve it. But don't take the money of my grind just because you don't know how to sell records anymore. You know what I mean? You know, it's a thing where you gotta be independent, you gotta be smart, you gotta realize that it's not gonna be instant success, and you have to have your team together. You have to start constructing a team. Yeah. And people sometimes get misconstrued because they hear me say independent and it sounds cool, right? But again, it's much harder to be free and not be a slave. Yeah. Like when you're a slave, everything's done for you. You just have to listen and do it. Right? You're a slave, don't get me wrong, you're a slave, but the food is given to you, your clothing is given to you, your house, you know, but you don't control how it's done, it's just given to you. Yeah. So when you become free, now you gotta build your own house, you gotta find some land, you gotta find some seeds to plant in that land, you gotta sit and watch that grow, you gotta know how to take it out of the ground, cook it, fix it, move to the next plot so that you can plot again for next year to let that ground like sort of, you know, replenish itself. You have to know how to do everything. So that's the point, when you're independent, you have to know how to do everything. So you can't do that as an artist by yourself. You need a team. Or you start to change the way that you view the record company. I'll do business with the record company. Yeah. Like you can promote my album, but then that's a fee. Like I'm paying you a fee and you do a job. Or you take 10% of whatever I make on this record. When people would sign record deals in the 90s, they was making 7 cents off of a record. You understand the difference? We're not partners at that point, like you're just pimping me. Yeah. And then now with the 360 deal, it's like you're pimping everything. Yeah. You know, everything that I do. If you get on a television show, whatever, like we own you outright, 360 degrees. That's what it means.
So basically, I heard about Dre and Jimmy, you know, they invested in USC, all this money, and then...
let's get to it. Yep, let's go. Let's go.
You know, it's coming. I hear that, you know, you taking spots for the on-campus people, you know. When is Howard going to get some hip-hop love? You know what I mean?
It's not me, but we get to the bigger issue, right? Yeah. And it's bugged out that I thought it was a couple of days ago, but today itself is the 25th anniversary of when the students themselves took over Howard University. So in 1989, the answer to that question was the students walked into the A building and put chains on the doors and changed this university forever, right? I don't see that going on. I also challenge the people that graduated from here, right, to get back to the school. So that's when the change comes, is when we decide that we want it to change, right? That's basically what it is. When you demand it and when you make people do certain things, like I was having that conversation with somebody just over there. Our generation of Howard University, if something went down this campus that we ain't like, people knew about it. Especially the generation before us. Like the dudes that was here like maybe 2 to 3 years ago, they was not having it, period. So it takes the students of Howard University to change Howard University. You gotta demand stuff. You understand what I'm saying? When I told you that the hip hop conference came here because students brought it here, students brought it here. Timothy Jones is right there. He was a student and made that happen. You understand? But you're also dealing with a different level of money. That's the main difference. That's why we have to be so personal with our school. That's why we have to like be extra in terms of giving back to the school, but everybody doesn't do that. And the students don't demand as much as we used to demand, and that's a problem.
Being that you came up like with like the greats and you work with the greats of hip hop, how do you feel about how now hip hop is being more commercialized, and more specifically like how Macklemore took over the Grammys over like people like Kendrick and stuff? So I
the situation, as I was trying to explain to somebody else, is sort of like when the president is someone that you don't like and you're complaining all day and you didn't vote. There's absolutely nothing you can say about the president because you didn't vote. When you get to the night of the Grammys, it's too late to be complaining, right? And this is our fault. When I say our fault, I'm talking about the urban community. I'm talking about not just black people, but just urban music in general. Hip hop, R&B. Let me tell you why. I got involved with the Grammys through Grammy University, right? I'm involved with that program. I actually teach with them and help that out. This became so clear to me once I got into the situation, because now I'm looking around the room and I'm like, oh, everything makes sense now. You understand what I'm saying? It's none of us in there voting. We're not involved in the process. Artists has the right to vote and get involved with the Grammys. They don't. They don't start being concerned about the Grammys until they think about what they're gonna wear to the Grammys. You understand what I'm saying? So right now is when you change that. So let me explain that to you. So you get involved with the Grammys, you vote, and you vote on everything. So if there's a whole room full of people that have no idea what went on in hip hop or R&B music for the past year, they're voting. They get the same piece of paper I get, right? And I try to flip it and explain it to the audience like this, like say me, Bangladesh, any of us, we get the paper, right? I'm whizzing through the urban part, right? Or the rap part. I know that like the back of my head, this person should win, this person should. It's very clear to us that Kendrick had the better album, right? But if I was to give you the country rock and roll section, you would have no idea of who was rocking last year. If I give you the orchestral music section, you have no idea of who was rocking last year. You know what I'm saying? So when it gets to country, I'm just like, Taylor Swift. And that's who I know. You know what I'm saying? But that really has nothing to do with how good of an artist she is, and even though I know her, what did she do last year? This Grammy Award is for this year, right? You know what I'm saying? I have no idea what Taylor Swift. The only name that I can even recognize, right? My suggestion to the Grammys was that you should do what the movies do. Those people that vote on the movies, they get a screener. They get the movie. So they can sit there and watch and be like, this is this movie, this is anybody that votes in that process, they get a copy of the movie. Especially now with MP3, you have to give the person the album, you can just stream it, right? Because people are voting on what they don't know. So the rest of the people in the room, in their world, Macklemore is rocking, right? The basketball games, the football games, the baseball games they go to, that's what's playing over the music. When they look at the numbers, Macklemore outsold them. Right? In their world, the radio stations that they listen to,
this is like a homecoming for you.
Yeah, absolutely. I want to thank you for having me.
So everybody give a round of applause for that.